my fellow general. I hope this correspondence finds you well. Although I didn't wish for us to come into conflict, some things are unavoidable, so I look forward to an honorable fight upon the battlefield. But with that said, if I lock eyes with you during combat, rest assured, I will show you no mercy when I fly across the battlefield and cut you down. Sincerely yours, the glorious General of the Emperor's Supreme Imperial Army. Greetings and welcome back to Checkpoint Gaming, Chess. With this episode, we will be going over the rules of Xiangqi. With Xiangqi, it translates to that of the elephant game, and it is a form of chess that has been played in China for centuries. Besides mainland China, it is also played in other East Asian countries such as Taiwan, Hong Kong, Thailand, Singapore, and Vietnam. We wonder if Winnie the Pooh knows how to play. Xiangqi is a strategy game that is similar to chess, of course, but uses a different type of board and pieces. With the layout of the board, it consists of an 8x9 square grid that consists of 8 files and 9 ranks. In addition to this, a series of squares cut across the middle of the board and is known as the river that is found running through the kingdom, with some pieces not being allowed to cross said river, almost like that of the boundary between North and South Korea. On each side of the river, each player has a 4x8 territory they essentially call their own. Regarding the placement of the pieces, they're placed occupying the intersection of the squares instead of the squares themselves, thus causing the board to be a 9x10 square grid with 9 files and 10 ranks. And with the occupying of these intersections, they include the board's edges. In addition to this, there are 2 palaces found upon opposite sides of the board. With each palace, it is distinguished from the other squares by the fact that it is a 9-point fortress with an X-shaped cross that spans across 4 squares and connects the 4 far corners of the palace. And when it comes to that of certain pieces, they're to remain within the palace throughout the game. With the pieces used in Xiangqi, although they have a close resemblance to that of chess, there are a few exceptions along with possessing different means of movement. We'll be providing the list of pieces here with their description, approximate Chinese pronunciations, their English equivalents, and their given movement. On top of this, some pieces will have different names for the same piece which depends upon which side the piece belongs to. And with the piece count, it consists of 1 general, 2 advisors, 2 elephants, 2 horses, 2 chariots, 2 cannons, and 5 pawns. With the general, it is known as zhang and shuai in Chinese, which translates to that of governor or general in English. For this series, we'll be referring to it as the general, and it is equivalent to that of the king. It is the key piece in the player's set, and when it is placed into checkmate, the game comes to an end, and the player who put the general in checkmate wins the game. When it moves and engages in capturing, the general is able to move a single square that is found along the rank or file from the square that it is currently located. With that said, there is a restriction in place for the generals are not allowed to directly face each other in the same file. Because of this, an intervening piece needs to be found between them, thus causing them to not be allowed to see each other. But if there is no intervening piece found between the 2 generals, then the flying general move is allowed to be performed, which sees the general move all the way across the board in order to capture the opposing general. But in practice, this rule is only to be used to enforce the checkmate rule, and unless performing the flying general action, the general is unable to leave their respective palace. And with its starting position, it is that of 15. When it comes to that of the flying general, some house rules state that if the generals ever see each other, the player who performed the move that allows them to see each other will immediately lose. With the advisor, it is known as shi in Chinese, which translates to that of scholar, guard, gentleman, officer, official, or counselor in English. When it moves and engages in capturing, the advisor is able to do this 1 square diagonally, and like that of the general, it is unable to leave their respective palace. And with its starting position, it is that of 14 and 16. With the elephant, it is known as jiang or xiang in Chinese, which translates to that of elephant or minister in English. When it moves and engages in capturing, the elephant is able to do this exactly 2 squares along the diagonal and is unable to jump over any intervening pieces. If the elephant is unable to move due to an adjacent piece, then this situation is known as blocking the elephant's eye. Sounds like the piece is found amongst elephant grass. The elephant is also unable to cross the river. And with its starting position, it is that of 13 and 17. With the horse, it is known as ma in Chinese, which translates to horse in English. When it moves and engages in capturing, it is able to move 1 square along the same rank or file, followed by 1 square diagonally, and it will have to travel in this given format. This can be seen as the same general movement of the knight in chess, but not in the L-shaped pattern. But with that said, the horse will be unable to jump over other pieces like its western cousin, thus causing its movement to become blocked by another piece found upon the board. And with its starting position, it is that of 12 and 18. With the chariot, it is known as che, ju, or che in Chinese, which translates to that of chariot in English. When it moves and engages in capturing, it is able to move to any desired number of squares that is found along the rank or file from the square that it is currently located. And with its starting position, it is that of 11 and 19. With the cannon, it is known as pao in Chinese, which translates to that of cannon or catapult in English. For this series, we'll be referring to it as the cannon. With the cannon, it is a unique piece in Xiangqi, for it is able to move just like that of the chariot, but in order for it to be able to capture a piece, and only a single piece, it will have to jump over another piece. And the piece that it jumps over can be friend or foe, with the cannon moving into the spot of the piece that it just captured. And with its starting position, it is that of 32 and 38. And finally, with the soldier, it is known as bing, zhu, ping, or tsu in Chinese, which translates to that of soldier, pawn, or foot soldier in English. For this series, we'll be referring to it as the soldier. Although it has similarities to that of the pawn in chess, it has some differences as well. First, if the soldier manages to make its way across the board and reach the far side, it is unable to be promoted to that of another piece. Like Rodney Dangerfield, the soldiers get no respect. Second, the soldier is unable to engage in an en passant capture. So with that said, it can only move a single square forward. Along this same vein, it is able to capture opposing pieces as part of its normal movement. And third, when it crosses the river, the soldier will have to do so along the file. But before it moves across the river, it is only able to move a single square, which includes along the file or rank. And once crossing the river, it can only move one square upon the file. It can also never travel backwards. Like that of the Western view of time, it is always moving forward. And with its starting position, it is that of 41, 43, 45, 47, and 49. So with the initial placement of the pieces for both players, it is symmetrical. The asymmetry only comes about when the pieces begin to move about upon the board, and once a piece has been captured, it is removed from the board with the capturing piece taking its place. It is worth noting that some of the pieces bear different characters upon them, even if they serve the same purpose based upon which color the pieces are. So even though each side is equal in strength with the same pieces and the same powers, the names found upon the red side are slightly nobler than those found upon the black side. And depending upon the set being used, some variation might exist along with different colors being used to represent the pieces. But with that said, it's still the same game. When playing the game, each player takes a turn by moving a single piece upon the board, with the red player going first. Regarding the game's objective, it is to try and capture the enemy general. So this variant is not unlike that of most versions of the game we've addressed so far in this series. This is to be done by either checkmating the general or to put it into stalemate, which sees the general not immediately facing that of a checkmate but also doesn't have any legal moves to make that will keep him in a position of safety. But stalemate is different in Xiangqi when compared to that of chess. In chess, a stalemate is equal to that of a draw, but in Xiangqi, a stalemate results in the player who is unable to move losing. When the general finds itself being threatened with capture, it is said that it is in check with the player controlling said general, having to perform a move that will cause the general to no longer be threatened. If only Julius Caesar engaged in such an action before entering the Senate in 44 BCE. But if the general is unable to be protected and moved out of check, the player who controls said general will lose the game, much like what Caesar did at the hands of the Senate and his friend, Brutus. With all of that said, the game is not allowed to see a general in perpetual check or perpetual attack. What do you think this is? Real life, where a disgraced general is constantly fleeing for his life due to incompetency upon the battlefield and wanting to seek refuge with sympathetic individuals who would do what they can to protect them? Just ask Pompey how successful that plan was for him when he tried it by fleeing to Egypt. If the game finds itself in a situation where this position of perpetual check is occurring, then the player that is forcing the situation to occur will have to perform a different action. Another house rule that can be implemented is that the player who is causing this to occur is to lose the game. When it comes to that of capturing pieces, it's done by simply moving to a square that is occupied by an enemy piece, although some restrictions are in place as described earlier. So with that said, that is what you need to know about the rules of Xiangqi. With that taken care of, we can start talking the variants of Xiangqi. If you liked this episode, feel free to give it a like, and if you want to stay up to date on any future episodes we upload, go ahead and subscribe. You can also support us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/checkpointgaming. See you in the next episode and happy gaming.